an exciting day because I have some brand new coloured pencils from Arrtx that they have kindly gifted me, and I have just unwrapped the box. They just arrived today, it's a cute box for a start. I want to do a little bit of swatching first, and then I am going to do a little loose sketch of a beautiful scene from Sicily where we were earlier in the year. But let's just have a look first. Woohoo, 126 colours. And look, they're in this really cute little box. Thank you, Arrtx. Oh, 2 boxes actually, look at that. So they will sit quite nicely on my desk. Not my desk, but the counter in my studio where all of my pencils are kept, and I am going to endeavour to keep them in some kind of order. I am really not the best at keeping things organised in this way. I do have a couple of little kind of stand-up racks, and I try and keep the warm pencils and the cool pencils together, separated. But this, I like this. I'm going to try and keep it as it is. So let's just pop the pencils over here and here. And first up, before I get started with the sketch, I want to just, as I said, do some swatching and just see how they feel. So the pencils that I typically use are, Luminance, Holbein, and I have also got a set of Woomer pencils, which I really, really love. They are not as expensive as the others, but they do the job. Okay, this is nice. I like the way it's kind of overlapping there. They feel, they're not super creamy. I kind of want to get into some of the more pigmented colors because obviously I use a lot of bright colors. Well, that's nice. I'm just looking at how it kind of blends over the color next to it. Love that color. So I'm just going to grab a couple of pencils. I want to just compare it to the Luminance. So I want to do a couple of comparisons here. So first up, I've got a couple of my Luminance pencils. So let's just pop that down there. Okay. Definitely creamier. Let's see if I can find a similar color to kind of compare. Maybe this one. Kind of, but not really. Yep, okay. So I feel like the feel of the pencil is definitely not as creamy. The pigment is slightly more muted, I guess. Let's have a look at this one. But it still feels nice. It actually still feels really nice. It doesn't feel like a cheap pencil. It's just a different feel. Okay, put there. Let's have a try of this one. This is a Luminance. Yeah, definitely just, it's kind of more buttery is the only way I can explain it. Let's see here, maybe this one. Let's do a comparison. Completely different color. Look, for the difference, I haven't actually even looked up the price, but I'm assuming, and I will look up the price and link below, I'm assuming that these are a much more budget-minded range of pencils. So as far as sketching and traveling with them and ease on your budget, they feel good. They feel good. Let me just try, so here's a similar range of the Woomers, a similar kind of budget range of pencil. And I have enjoyed playing with these. Let's see if I can find a similar. So let me just have a try with the Woomer, just for the feel. Yeah. Okay. This one. Okay, so as far as the softness in the application, definitely the Woomers are closer to the Luminance, and these are a little bit more, how will I say it, maybe just a scratchier kind of application. But again, I'm gonna do the whole thing, and I'm going to do a whole sketch with them and see how they compare. Now I also want to try out the Holbein. So here's a Holbein. Again, now Holbein, I feel like the Holbein is even more vibrant and more buttery than the Luminance. Let me find something similar. There's not actually a similar yellow in this set, but beautiful vibrancy in that color. So I guess, you know, like a lot of times I feel like I get, how would you say? Like I have favorite colors in different ranges. And so if I have a favorite color in a particular range, you're not always going to be able to duplicate that in another brand. And so sometimes it's a matter of reaching for the color that you want rather than the brand that you want. I find that anyway. I don't know how you guys kind of, whether you do the same thing, but a lot of times it's a particular color that I'm after, and that's the color that I will reach for regardless of the brand. So let's go back to swatching up here, and I'm going to swatch in no particular order. So this one is like a kind of a fluorescent color, fluorescent orange, and there is a fluorescent pink too. So that's pretty cool because I do like a little hint of fluorescent in my sketches and paintings. And I'm not going to go through and swatch every single color, but I just want to get a general idea, especially of the colors that I might reach for. Well, that's nice. Okay, I already don't want to put them back in the right place. Greens are interesting. So this whole range of greens here, because oftentimes you want like a nice range of greens to cover all of the spectrum of leaves and plants and trees. I always love to make sure I have an olive green in the mix. I tend to gravitate more towards the olive greens and the deep, deep greens, and the lime greens as well. So like this one here looks pretty nice. And then I would also need, there's a whole range of deep greens back in here. That's great. So look, this is a really, so even just looking at the range of greens, I really like this set for the amount of different greens that it has in it. There's no way I'm going to keep these in the same order. They're going to be scattered all around me by the time I finish this sketch. But look, there's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's at least 15 different greens in this particular set of 126 colors. So that's really appealing to me. And just slight differences, but you know, when you're looking at putting in plants and vegetation, you want that variety. To be able to layer up. Okay. All right, cool. And then, yeah, let's just do this. Some of the colors, I always love my turquoise and teals. So I want to make sure I give those a try. Big fan of seascapes. What other colors would be in my water and my seascapes? Would be maybe this one. And maybe this one. I'm just looking at the variety of color, and it does seem like it has a really nice variety of different hues. Look at all of these beautiful blues through here, and across here as well. Lots of earthy colors also. So I think I'm just going to get started, and let's work on a sketch. So let's find this is my sketchbook that I take with me when I visit our granddaughters, and a lot of these pages are collaborative pages with Nora and Maya and I. So let's have a look for a blank page. I wonder if I should work on a page that already has a little bit of something on it. No, let's have a look and see if we can look at the true colors. All right, so the image that I'm going to work from is, I'm going to work from this one or this one. I think this one might be a little bit more interesting. So let's pop this here. Alrighty, and I'm going to keep this nice and loose. I don't want this to be a super long sketch. I'm going to look at doing this in under half an hour, so I'm going to keep it really free and see how we go, okay? So I'm just going to have a look at some of the lines that I could get in first to maybe just give myself an idea of where things are going to be. So I'm going to start with a very light gray to kind of get some of these initial lines in. So if I look here, sometimes my brain will just divide the page up. So that looks like it's around about a quarter, so it's half, about a quarter here, coming down. And then you've got like some foliage kind of coming over down to about here. Looking at the negative space, so just like, it doesn't have to be exact, but just giving yourself an idea. Tall here. And again, not getting too particular because I do want to keep loose, but I just want to I don't want to get caught up in detail, but I do want to have things in the right place, if that makes sense. Okay, so if we're looking at, my eye is just kind of going from one thing to another. So there's a line here of a roof, kind of comes down to here, and then another one goes up there, okay? And then that gives us this line here. So it's kind of a bit of a puzzle sometimes, where I look at how things move and what they kind of, where the intersections are, where the meeting points are, where they join up. I'm going to ignore the palm here because there are things underneath it that we need to kind of look at first. So let's just do, it's also like decisions that you have to make are kind of like how much do you want to actually include in here? So there's going to be this larger vase down here, which is in the foreground, not vase, but a pot, which is in the foreground. So we make it a little bit more exaggerated. It's going to have some designs on there. And then there is going to be a tree right here, which is going to come up. We'll do that later once we get more of the other. There's going to be a curve here and another. So just getting the things in. Over on this side, we've got lots and lots of foliage, which we can work on. The shape of the foliage coming down. Again, we're just trying to get the things in the right place. And up here we have a window with some spots on it. doorway. Oh, interesting, because there's another doorway here, but then there's a whole bunch of stuff up here. So let's do this doorway a little bit closer. Here. And I haven't left myself a lot of room for another window, so we'll make this a very small window here. And this doorway here. This is when you kind of realize, oh, you know, things that the proportions are not quite right, but it's okay. We can also use our creative license. I think that's enough to kind of just get the things in and start working on some of the other tones. So let's see first. I'm going to start with the darks. And I'm going to bring in the deepest greens and just start to make some little all right, we'll bring in the darks in other places that we can see them as well. And I won't do these ones in the foreground until I get the other areas in the background complete. I want to bring in some of these yellow highlights and get that going as well. took this last trip to Europe from April to July this year, I bought what I thought was a really good selection of pencils for sketching, and I didn't bring any colours that would work for bougainvillea, and there was so much beautiful bougainvillea everywhere, so I really kind of was sad about the fact that I didn't have anything to capture that. So these two pencils right here, I'm going to make sure that I add them to my kit next time we're traveling anywhere where we're going to find bougainvillea, because they are perfect. So that is a fabulous discovery in this set. So the overlapping layering of the colors is really nice. I like how they're working together. So like I said, if there's anything that's like a bit of a difference between the pencils that I use more often, it is that there's a more scratchy and a less buttery feel to these Arrtx. But I like the colors, I like the way they're going on, I like the way they're layering with each other. And I think if I just can get the rest of this plant foliage in a free way, then I can get pretty close to being finished with this piece. All right. As my eye moves around, sometimes I see things that just haven't been done, and so my brain tends to want to come and just pick them up as I see them. So I'm adding these little string lights on to around the windows, realizing that I missed a few. So this town was a town called Borgo Parrini in Sicily, in northern Sicily. And it was the sweetest little town. It was a town that had almost died. And then an artist had come along and decided to single-handedly rescue the town. And he had invigorated everybody else. And then they had painted murals and painted all the buildings. And then as the town started becoming more and more beautiful, other artists from different towns around Sicily began to move into Borgo Parrini, and it became known as a town of artists. And it was quite a short while that it took them to kind of bring this town back to life. And now people from all over come to visit. All right, I'm laughing at myself here because how long did I say it was going to take for me to completely mess up the order of these pencils? First time I've used them, and it is done. Okay, I'm looking and I'm seeing that some of the things that I have forgotten. You know, it's so funny, like the way that my brain works. And the way that everybody's brains are different. So, you know, I see people that just, everybody does things in such different ways. And some people work methodically I've even seen people like work methodically from one corner of a drawing to the other. I am very much a jump all over the place. And, you know, miss things out and come back to them and then realize what I've missed out. And I feel like that's the way I just am in my life as well. Yeah, so I just find it super interesting. I worked in special ed for a lot of years, and we talked a lot about neurodiversity and about how we tried to kind of we didn't try. We told the kids that they didn't have a disability. They had just a different kind of ability, a different way of seeing the world. And I really feel like that's so true, and that we all have different ways of seeing the world that are all just as valuable as the next person. So my aim with this was to try and simplify. And that's always what I'm trying to do when I'm working, especially in my sketchbook. Because I find that like if you're somewhere, usually you don't have a lot of time when you're sketching. And you know, oftentimes I won't take my sketchbook out because I think to myself, well, I don't have much time here, so I'm not going to bother doing it. So I'm trying to train myself to work faster, to just put in what is important and to leave out the rest. So that whole idea even of figuring out what's important, I think just takes time, you know. And the more you practice, the better you get. Just like with everything in life. And it's the same with your sketchbook. Practice, practice, practice. Just trying to think about what to do with these. I think I'll just do these kind of birds up here, like this. And then I'll decide whether I want to actually colour in the wall or not. Just not sure. I think I need that white space there. Oh, see, I keep saying that I'm going to come down here and do this foliage, and then I don't do it. All right, I'm not going to bring any more greens into it at the moment. I think that we have enough different greens going on, so let's just get the shapes of the leaves in and see if we can finish the painting. See if we can finish this sketch. See if I can get my brain to work. You can always add in creative license as well. If I decide that I want some more flowers, I can bring some more in. I like the white space up here. I'd like to have a little bit more variation in the stonework. I'm going to leave this blank down here. keep playing and fiddling forever. But as I said, I wanted to keep it simple. I wanted to see how these pencils shaped up compared to the pencils that I normally use. And I'm definitely going to add some of these colors into my repertoire, especially the bougainvillea ones. And I will be traveling with them. Just a couple of little things here that I've missed. A little line that comes along here. And it has a bit of bougainvillea growing on it. And I think that we are going to call that one done. Borgo Parrini Sicily. Okay, that's me for the day.